Thought it was time to cover the shotguns and how they relate to Warzone, because all the time when I do these videos about the MP5 or the new meta, and a lot of times people are saying, hey, you're sleeping on the Origin, you're sleeping on the VOK. So I thought I'd take a quick look and see where the weapons stand as far as today with the current meta, how they balance up against the MP5, the FAL, which is one of the best close range options, and some of the other SMGs, and kind of look at, are they actually viable and why don't you see them more often in Warzone? So we'll be taking a look at which of the shotguns are viable, giving you a class setup for a few of them, and we'll be looking at the various distances that you should be using these shotguns and how you should be pairing these weapons with another weapon if you decide to use them within Warzone, with obviously factoring in the part that people have full health and 3 full plates. If you enjoyed the video or learned something new, please do me a favor, hit that like button. Goal in today's video is 2,500 likes, so hopefully you help me hit that number. And if you're brand new looking to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, just make sure you subscribe with notifications on. So one of the first things I'm going to talk about is a few patches ago, they actually modified the way the shotguns work within Warzone versus multiplayer. Multiplayer, we know that you got 100 health. Pretty much all of these have a one-shot kill potential in regular multiplayer. That's not an issue. But some of these actually had a one-shot kill within Warzone, which bumped it over 300 damage, and they went ahead and they modified those so it could be dropped down to around 204. So pretty much all the shotguns in Warzone have a 204 potential to deal damage. So that means they're always going to be at a minimum 2 shots to kill, and then as they get further, it could be 3, 4, 5, 6, depending on how many pellets they hit. And then usually between about 20 to 26 meters, depending on what shotgun you're talking about, you deal 0 damage. Literally, you can't get a hit marker beyond that range. That just pellets don't connect, and you get 0 damage. So that's pretty much how all these work. The only exception to this is if you manage to run a shotgun that previously had a one-shot kill potential, which I believe the R9 725, possibly the Origin, but for sure the VOK had a one-shot kill potential. You equip stopping power, it'll bump it over that amount. Then when you get that shot off, it can still do a one-shot kill and be incredibly broken. But that's kind of be a lot of different variables. Maybe that's a little bit more practical in Plunder, where you can guarantee you're going to have stopping power for every time you reload. So let's go ahead and get into the comparison. So this is the first comparison that we'll go ahead and take a look at. It has the Model 680, the R9 725, Origin, VOK, and then I've thrown in the FAL and the MP5 in there, so we can kind of look at the TTK, or time to kill, over here on the left, which is in milliseconds. So if this is 2,000 milliseconds, that's 2 seconds. 1,000 is 1 second. 500 is about a half a second. Then we have the distance in meters. It only goes up 20 meters because pretty much it's not practical for most of these guns. After about 12 meters, you're typically not going to run into them or see them used. The Model 680 ends up being one of the worst because it got removed, that one-shot kill potential. It requires 2 shots. It has a long delay between one shot to the next. So it's just not very practical to land 2 shots. 750 milliseconds, you might as well be using a rifle. And then it drops off even further if you need a 3rd shot to kill, which is not great. So I wouldn't use the Model 680 almost at all in Warzone. Then we get to the opposite side of that, the R9. The R9 is, it kind of has one of those things where it fires 2 shots really quick, has a long, like 600 millisecond delay, and then you fire another 2 shots really close together. And then you have another long delay and you fire 2 shots again. So ideally you want to kill the person in 2 shots and that's it. You don't want to take it to a 3rd or 4th shot. The effectiveness with the R9 to get 2-shot kill is right around 5 meters. If you're within 5 meters, literally, we're going to look at what that looks like in game as well for 5, 10, 15, and 20 meters, so you can have that comparison. But literally, if they're not within 5 meters, it's going to take a 3rd shot, which basically means that you're dead unless you happen to jump back around a corner, come back out, and finish them off with that 3rd and 4th shot, which is ideally how you want to use the R9. So it kind of has a limited practicality. It's just not as versatile as you're going to get with some of these other shotguns, or using the MP5 or the FAL, which is more often used within Warzone. Then we have the 725. Keeping in mind that this looks like good, like really good, that it goes all the way up to about 16 meters, and you can get the 2-shot kill. So meaning if you line up both your shots, you aim down sight, all the pellets connect up to about 16 meters, which is difficult to do on a moving target. You can actually 2-tap them and they're done. That's it. You'll do enough damage where you finish the player off. But in a practical sense, you're not really going to have that happen. And especially if you miss 1 shot, you're kind of screwed because it's a long reload delay, and you can see it jumps off the chart and you basically are going to be dead if you don't happen to kill him in that gunfight. So this kind of random, very impractical, so I wouldn't really use it, but something to be aware of, that you could insta-melt someone if that were the case. Then we have the Origin 12. So when we look at the Origin 12, all the way up to about 5 meters, super dominant, 2-shot kill, faster than 250 milliseconds, and then it drops off right around the 6 meter mark. And then it requires a 3rd shot, and then when it requires a 4th shot, because it fires so fast, it doesn't get penalized quite as much as some of these other guns. But this is keeping in mind that if you're aimed down sight, because when you hip fire, the spread's wider and maybe not all those pellets are going to hit. So you're going to have to aim down sight to get these maximum ranges consistently. Not to say you couldn't do it if you were in the hip fire, but it might require an extra shot, which literally an extra shot could be the difference between you winning the gunfight and losing the gunfight. Because at the end of the day, you're only using this to try and maximize that 2-shot and potentially 3-shot kill potential that the Origin 12 has. Then you get the VLK Rogue with the Dragon's Breath, which is a lot of people have been raving about. And this one actually performs pretty decent. All the way up to about 7 meters, it's kind of holding its own. It's tied up here with the FAL, but if it requires a 3rd shot, then it basically has a slower time to kill after about 7 meters. About 7.5 meters, it drops off, and its time to kill slower than as if somebody had a rifle, because of that long delay, the slow fire rate, all those things that go into it make it a very impractical weapon if you don't kill them in 2 shots within 7.5 meters. Then you can see the FAL pretty much is consistent all the way across, and this is his 4-shot kill. But obviously we know that if you land 2 chest shots and a headshot with the FAL, you can get it to 3 shots to kill, which would lower this time to kill significantly and make it just as good as probably the Origin 12 at a much further range, all the way up to about 20 meters if you're only using the monolithic. That doesn't even factor in as if you're using the marksman barrel, which gives you the extra range. And that's kind of how that part, a little bit more of a skill type thing. Then we got the MP5. You're hitting chest shots all the way up to about 12.5 meters. Pretty much it's better than all the shotguns. Right after around 7 meters to around 15 meters is the best thing, besides the FAL, which isn't fully automatic. And then we have this part right here where it kind of gets overtaken, and then it becomes the best bet right around 15-ish meters. And the only thing close right here is the Origin, but keeping in mind, you have to be aimed down sight and all those pellets have to hit to maximize this time to kill. Even if a couple pellets aren't hitting, you are not going to get that maximized time to kill. So odds are you're going to die and lose that gunfight because of that extra shot required to down that next player. So here's what 5, 10, 15, and 20 meters looks like in game. So right around the 5 meter mark, which is this first guy, that was the R9 in the Origin. And then right around 7.5 meters was the VLK. And then pretty much it's not very practical to use most of these shotguns beyond that 7.5 meters. So right over here, halfway between guy at 10 meters and guy at 5 meters is pretty much the maximum effectiveness of these weapons. And that creates a huge problem because with the MP5, a lot of times you could stack that with a long range rifle. And a long range rifle are usually built a little bit slower, less recoil, more range. And you're using that as your close option. And that's going to get you all the way up to about 20-ish meters, 22-ish meters if you have the right attachments with the MP5. You get that distance. The dilemma that this creates is what do you pair it with? So maybe with the shotguns, you got to combine it with the M4, the Ram 7, but then what do you do at that 60 to 80 meters, which is typically going to be very hard to compete with a Bruin, a sniper, all those various things that you can get further at range. When your weapon is only good between 5 meters up to about 7 meters, you're kind of losing a little bit of practicality. That's why you don't see it this often, because you can't guarantee that that gunfight's going to be within 5 meters. That's incredibly close. That means they could hear you, you could hear them. Even if you see them and then you're trying to close the distance so you can get that 2-shot kill, they're already landing shots by the time you're closing the distance. So you might be able to land a shot here, but you're not going to get that lowest time to kill possible. So can it be effective? Yes. But I think the restrictions on that range make them very impractical for a majority of situations. Obviously, the scenarios where they're going to melt, but I think you're better off using an SMG. But regardless of that, let's go ahead and take a look at some class setups, and I'll kind of rank which rifles you should be using within Warzone. So like I said, I would not use the Model 680 or the 725, so completely scratch those off. Very impractical and even less practical than the 3 shotguns we're going to take a look at. So the first one, I would rank this as the 3rd best shotgun is the R9. And for the R9, this is a class setup I would use. The choke, the tac sentry, the 5 milliwatt laser that helps with the hip fire spread as well as sprint to fire speed. The 1 milliwatt normally does that for a lot of weapons, but with shotguns it doesn't work out that way. So if you want the tighter hip spread so you can make sure that most of those pellets are hitting, I would definitely go with the 5 milliwatt. And then you have the extension tube, which is going to help, especially if you're making it that far in the engagements, but you could always swap that out for sleight of hand. And then we got stipple grip for a little bit faster aim down sight, but sprint to fire speed as well. So you can come out of sprint, got tight hip spread because you got the 5 milliwatt, stack that, land those 2 shots, hopefully within the 5 meters, you down them. If not, it's going to take at least that 3rd shot if all those pellets hit previously and they were just outside of that range. The second best is going to be the VLK, and with the VLK, this is the options I would use: the choke, the VLK Czar, the 5 milliwatt, the Dragon's Breath rounds, and either no stock for the extra mobility. And if you think you want to reload a little bit faster because the Dragon's Breath rounds does just not a lot of rounds, you could always put on sleight of hand. So that's pretty much how I would build my VLK class. Keeping in mind that you could always swap out these chokes for monolithic suppressors. They kind of give a similar benefit, but the benefit of the choke, it's going to tighten up that spread so we're getting as many pellets connecting at once and maximizing our potential to get that 2-shot kill for a majority of these scenarios within the range that we're supposed to get them. So obviously there's a lot of if then, but when everything comes together, these weapons melt faster than you can melt with pretty much almost any of the fully automatic weapons or even the FAL within Warzone. And then the best one, in my opinion, is actually the Origin 12. So we use the same thing, the choke or the monolithic. We got the Impaler 5 milliwatt, 12 round mag if you're playing solos and duos. If you feel like, hey, you want to be able to spam that, jump around, move a little bit, you could always go with the 25 round, or you could drop no stock for sleight of hand. So you kind of got that little bit of variance. Keeping in mind that you're going to move much slower ADS when you have the 25 round mag. But if you just need to spam it, move around, it's kind of one of those things. You guys got to play it depending on what mode you're playing. Definitely solos and duos, you can get away with 12. Trios and quads, 25 round drum might be a little bit more effective, but normally you can kind of position yourself to get a reload in if you have sleight of hand. So it's really one of those trade-offs. Hopefully this video was helpful. You learned something new. If you did, please do me a favor, hitting that like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, make sure you subscribe with notifications on. Appreciate all the support on the channel. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.